Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode I'll be discussing the 2002 British action horror Dog Soldiers, as written, directed and edited by Neil Marshall in his directorial debut. The movie sees us follow a group of British soldiers on a training exercise against a special forces unit in a remote part of the Scottish Highlands. However, before they have a chance to infiltrate the special forces, they find what's left of their remains scattered all over their campsite. One member of the team survived, Captain Richard Ryan, as played by Liam Cunningham, who headed up the unit but remains tight-lipped about the events that transpired, only issuing a warning that they all should leave immediately. As night draws in, the platoon look to move forward but are ambushed by an unknown predator, with at least one of the troop ending up dead and another severely wounded. They retreat to a nearby farmhouse with the help of a civilian, Megan, as played by Emma Cleasby, from whom they learn that they were in fact attacked by werewolves and that they will be lucky to survive the night. Scrounging everything they can from their surroundings, every last bullet, every last grenade, pots and pans and everything, knives, the troop batten down the hatches and look to stand their ground against the ever-battling onslaught of the ravenous beasts. Now, the thing is, with werewolf films, they can be a bit of a mixed bag, I think. There isn't all that much to kind of sink your teeth into if all you want is an all-out action-packed fest. You know, most tend to concentrate on the damned nature of the curse and the brooding and futile nature of the changes that occur once you have been infected, so to speak. Which a number of films do fantastically. Now, I might add, do not get me wrong. Just that there aren't kind of a lot of good options out there if you kind of fancy something a little different and a little less absorbed. Now, that's exactly where Dog Soldiers comes in, bringing us a nice, simple werewolves versus soldiers plot that basically does exactly what it says on the tin and is an all-out riot. Choosing to concentrate more on the kind of the all-out assault and relentless pursuit these creatures give rather than their overall mythology, legend and transformation. Instead, we showcase the might and the power of these creatures, but also their intelligence and cunning, which kind of makes for a refreshing change if this is indeed what you have been searching for in a werewolf movie. It perhaps does seem a little cluttered at first, a little blunt. We are kind of straight in with the characters in this platoon, and at first it can take a kind of a bit to get used to know who everybody is. It isn't until much later in the film, and indeed after a number have actually been killed, that we really truly start to understand who the main characters are and who we should watch out for. But it's punchy and reasonably fast-paced, and although it might be hard to kind of understand who's who, we do get the bond this platoon has right from the offset, which indeed is all we really need to understand for the most part. There is the insinuation there's more to this story on both sides of the fences, both for the special forces and indeed the werewolves. But neither is kind of explored in any great depth. Frustrating, perhaps, but it keeps the main story progressing without getting too bogged down in messy sidebars, which may or may not have worked as well as the main story thread. It's because it keeps things simple that I think it works so well for me. It has a rough and kind of ready style of cinematography. It does seem very raw at times, but indeed passionate, you know? And this enables the audience to connect, even if at first they do seem somewhat distant. It's a film that does make great use of its surroundings, you know, the sprawling wilderness of the Scottish Highlands, being both breathtaking and isolating at the same time. Okay, admittedly, it is about, you know, a bit dark and murky at times. It's not always easy to see what's going on, to be honest. But the werewolves, they do like to come out in the dark. Of course, the dark hides a multitude of sins, and we really don't get to see too much of the werewolves in full. It is a low-budget production when all's said and done, but they do use a variety of special effects in the movie, which includes, you know, some absolutely awesome practical special effects that really do make up for the film's shortcomings in this area. And when they do, you know, when we do finally get to see the werewolves in all of their glory, I wasn't disappointed. I think the film holds up particularly well in this department, and although perhaps the quality of the film itself is a little dated now, it is quite noticeable. The special effects, however, were done to such a standard that, they still managed to counter this. And that's to say nothing of an explosive finale that is more than worth the wait. There is a certain kind of tension that builds throughout the movie, playing on our expectations of course, we know something untoward is lurking out there in the woods. But most of all, it's simply a fun, gory and exuberant take on the werewolf genre that serves as a nice and contained outing for these canine creatures. And for those of you that do like a bit of werewolf lore, this movie doesn't skimp on that either. It's a bit more subtle than most, but there is just enough to tease and manipulate the audience against our perceived expectations about these creatures, bringing in a number of elements derived from the classic elements of werewolf mythology, yet throwing us enough of a bone to forge its own way in the genre with a thoroughly satisfying outing. Overall, again, this does exactly what it says on the tin, bringing us an entry into the werewolf genre which, albeit which has been produced on a limited budget, still has enough thrills, spills, blood, guts and gore to thoroughly entertain. Whilst it can be a bit blunt at times, and indeed visually quite dark throughout, give it a little time to charm, and you won't be disappointed. If you want a change from the more deep and brooding werewolf films out there, this one squarely concentrates on bringing these creatures in a full-on assault with a simple plot pitting them against the might and resolve of a bunch of British soldiers. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having here at SciFirst MovieTalk and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.